How do you actually stand out in the content era? When you look at the space, all the creators that are creating content at the moment, what you'll notice is that there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of regurgitation, mediocrity, a lot of mimicry. And so all of that causes a large amount of excess, things that aren't really valuable or lasting in the space. Every piece of content that you see when you're on your For You page was created by someone, but the ones that leave a lasting impression on you, the viewer, are absolutely minimal. And it's because the substance behind the content itself was always lackluster. If you don't have substance that is meaningful or transformative, people are going to forget about it. And so my obsession has always been to ask the question, how do you create something that really lasts? How do you create something that actually leaves an impact on people? In order to create something authentic, you express something invisible but true. We as human beings are highly perceptive. We understand and see the world through our perceptions, and we also make our judgments through what we see. So whatever it is that you are building, whatever it is that is created, the way that we discern whether something is authentic or not is through our perception. And something authentic is always reflective of reality. The great creators of our time have always created things that have pointed out something that is true but has yet to be expressed. If you look at a beautiful piece of artwork like the Mona Lisa or the Leaning Tower of Pisa or Beethoven's symphonies, the reason why there is so much resonance, why it stands the test of time and impacts so many people on a metaphysical level, is because they have taken something that's intangible and expressed it through a medium that reaches people. So the great creators create things that give form to something that people already know and feel and experience but don't really have a language for. It is apparent in every single aspect of human civilization. Everything that's ever been created was an idea at the start. It needed to take shape. It wasn't that Beethoven's symphony didn't exist before he wrote it. It's the idea that has always existed in an invisible realm. But in order for that to be substantiated, to be real, and to be seen, and to be felt, and to be entered into, to be experienced, what you need is the conduit, the agent that takes action to make that into a reality. You've probably heard the phrase, steal like an artist. This concept and this idea is not new. In the past, the greatest composers, the greatest writers, and the greatest entrepreneurs have always taken something that has already existed and improved upon it. And in this process of improvement, they've taken their own unique perspectives and experiences and put a twist onto it. Every form of innovation is always referencing the past in some way. There is no such thing as a blank slate. There is no such thing as a new idea. Ideas are built upon one another, and everything that we do is always referencing the past, and the past is always informing us in the present in some way. We can't, as human beings, step outside of our time, our personality, the cultural spirit and trend of the moment. So every work is always reflective of the environment and the time from which it is birthed. Whatever it is that you're trying to build has to be in some way informed and entangled with the environment that you are in so that you can draw from it and so that in some way your creation can also improve upon it. Those are the best types of creations. Uber could not have been successful if people didn't already have access to iPhones. Uber wouldn't make sense in the 15th century. Whatever it is that you're trying to build has to make sense within the context of where you're building it. If I have a tropical fruit, I wouldn't plant it in Antarctica. So you need to understand your environment. And the word environment cannot not only just be broken down to its physical meaning, but it also applies to where you are in time. Having a better understanding of where you are standing and where our humanity is headed towards is absolutely imperative, because that is who you are actually communicating with every single time you create something. If you're creating for other people. If you want to create something meaningful and impactful that influences the lives of other people, then it has to be integrated into the society that you find yourself in. Steal like an artist, but steal like an artist within the context of your environment, and steal from history. Steal from the greats. Copy their intent. Understand what it is the greats of the past were trying to accomplish, how they learned their craft, what problems they were facing in their time, and what solutions they built in response to those things. 95% of people, I would say, are too obsessed with copying the formats, the methodologies, instead of copying the intent, the orientations, and the missions of people in the past. That's the thing that's going to give you your edge, because then the way that is expressed is going to be irreplicable. If you copy a format, copy a framework, copy language, if you just get everything from the same AI models that everybody else is using, you're never going to get innovation. You're only going to add to the noise, to the lack of substance. You're only adding to the perpetual cycle of mediocrity, repetition, and mimicry. Okay, second point, the polished layer is perishable. What do I mean by that? If you look at any great work that has ever lasted over time, it's lasted for a very particular reason, right? Now remember, everything that we see in this physical plane, excluding the creation of nature, is created by people. And like we said earlier, these things that were created started off as an invisible idea. A really great example of something that's created that was an idea that didn't exist but now exists is a nation state. Back in the day, we didn't have the concept of being a citizen of a particular nation. We used to live in small villages and communities, and because the way that we were divided up as communities was based on our livestock and our agriculture, we didn't have this attachment to identity with an intangible concept like the United States of America or Spain. These things are things that developed over time and were created by the founders of nations. So, when you think about things that have lasted like nations, what you find is that the things that last, its traditions, its rituals, its symbologies, and its mythologies, these things are deeply programmed into the way that it was built. These things weren't just added on over time. It's deeply ingrained into the actual architectural structure of its creation. So what does this mean, and what is the polished layer above it? The polished layer is basically all the trends. It's all the stuff that's refined so that it can skew perception in a particular way. It's like the makeup that people put on their faces every single day. You walk out and you ornament the way you present yourself so that you can be perceived in a particular way. But at the end of the day, when the day is over, when you've had a long, sweaty day, the makeup will wash off. The only thing that remains is what's real beneath it. The substance is what really matters. The architecture, the symbology, the rituals, the principles. These are the things that matter most. Most people are too focused on the makeup, but they're not focused on their knowledge and their substance. What you need to focus on is the message, the principles, the actual substance behind what it is that you're sharing with the world. Focus on the structure, don't focus on the ornaments. Number 3, every piece of work that you share with the world is a touch point that informs others of you. Everything that you create is an opportunity for people to learn about who you really are. Right now, I'm creating a YouTube video. So I have my camera out and I have a message and I'm trying to convey it in the best way possible. Whenever it is that you are trying to create something, and other people come into contact with that creation, it is as if the other person who's been exposed to you is crossing a threshold where they suddenly are opened up into a new world. It's an encounter. It's a place of meeting. What you need to do is to treat that encounter with respect. If the president came to your doorstep right now, you wouldn't be wearing pajamas. You would respect that interaction and that encounter because you respect the other person, right? And you also respect your reputation, how you come across. So the biggest mistake that we see in this space is that people have become so self-obsessed that they use the medium of creation as a machine of manipulation to gain some sort of social status, to self-aggrandize, to make themselves feel good, or whatever the reason may be. They miss the point of the encounter. As a consequence, those that are creating simply for themselves and without the heart of servitude completely objectify the recipients of whatever it is that they're making. And so what does that leave us with? It leaves us with something that doesn't actually touch people or resonate with people or help people. If you're being disingenuous, if you're manipulative, it's going to reek of narcissism. It's going to reek of instrumental manipulation. And maybe you can do really well to guise that, but over a course of time, your true character and the true substance behind what it is that you're doing will inevitably be exposed. It's always been that way. The much better route is to see them as subject instead of objects, is to see and understand that every single time you show up and that you place yourself and your work out there, it's going to be received and be met by real people, real stories, real problems, real depth, just like you and me right here. When you have a real encounter, you leave an impression, an important encounter, an encounter that is impressive, is memorable. It leaves a lasting impression. Have you ever seen a tuning fork? It has two prongs. It's used to tune musical instruments. When you hit it on a hard surface, it'll start resonating and it starts going at a specific tone. Resonance is a lasting impression. It's the opposite of forgettable. Everything that's shallow has no resonance because it doesn't leave a lasting impact. All of the great people that you've met in your life, the greatest movies, the greatest works of art that you've ever seen, are great to you because they've left a lasting impression on you. It's impressed upon you so strongly that it's either changed the way that you see yourself or the way that you see the world, or it's ingrained a memory in you so deeply that even as you've walked away from it, that song or that message or that character or that feeling stays with you. This is the proof of resonance. So to summarize all of this, have the sight to be able to get that bird's eye view of the current climate. All of this information gives you a perspective, and then it orients you in the right way. This is where I came from, this is where I am, and this is where I'm going. And as self-evident as it may seem, the majority of people deem it as unimportant, but it's to their peril and detriment, because it will be proven that they were untimely, and it will also be proven that their work and their creation was the opposite of substantive. Focus on the substance, not the polished layer. The makeup only amplifies what's already underneath it. The content, the camera, only captures what's already there. So many people are worried about being in front of the camera and saying something because they feel like they're going to be exposed. They feel like they're going to be judged. But the camera doesn't do anything. All the camera does is have a sensor. It just captures light. So the fear that most people have isn't actually the camera. It's the fear of being exposed and the fear of actually being seen. But we're seen all the time, right? It doesn't really make sense. It's not that you don't want to be seen. It's that you don't want to be seen in a particular way. And so even that in and of itself, it leads to a temptation of manipulation. Because in order not to be seen a certain way, you have to posture to be another way. And all that effort is gone into a manipulation of reality. A flat mirror just reflects what is accurately. So cultivating the peace of mind and the courage to simply be seen for who you really are, because you know what your substance is, you know what your principles are, you know what your message is, you know what your mission is, you know what your identity is. The camera is simply capturing reality, right? What's more important is, what is it capturing? Who is it capturing? Who are you? What is it that you actually have to say? These questions are so much more important. But if you're so caught up and focused on how you're being perceived and how you're being captured and how people are going to judge you based on that, then you're going to lose the plot. And lastly, every piece of content is a touch point. This technology that allows you and me to be right here and to have this conversation and to have this experience is revolutionary. I cannot speak enough about it. It's absolutely revolutionary. But this is an encounter. It's a way that we as two human beings can be on completely opposite sides of the globe and in a completely different time zone, but have a moment and we can have a communication, right? Through the words that I'm speaking, it is molding you in a way. And that's a responsibility, and I don't take that lightly. I think it's an absolutely important and serious responsibility. But you should also treat your work, your content, and your business, your creation in the same way. There is a very real responsibility because you are coming into contact with real human beings. So when you can approach that with sincerity, with reverence for your work and the people that you serve, and if you can do that with the courage and the confidence to be as truthful as you possibly can, then you'll be able to create lasting and meaningful things.